Good evening. My name is Sarkis Oganessian, the Deputy Public Works Director and City Engineer for the Public Works Department, Engineering Division, and I would like to welcome you to the community meeting for the fiscal year 2023 Slurry Seal and Crack Seal Program on March 14th, 2023, being called to order at 6:10 p.m. This meeting is open to in-person and is also being streamed live on youtube.com/MyGlendale. You may also find a copy of today's presentation on our project webpage located at www.glendalepwprojects.com, where you can browse to the current projects link, then click on the fiscal year 2023 Slurry Seal and Crack Seal program that will be posted shortly after this meeting. Public comments and questions will be welcome after we present a brief project overview. To provide your comments and questions regarding this project, please submit a speaker card if you are attending in person tonight, or please call 818-937-8100 if you are viewing remotely. Public comments and questions related to this project will be recorded and responded to separately through the project webpage after this community meeting. Additionally, on March 30th, 2023, in approximately 2 weeks' time, we will also be hosting a community meeting regarding traffic calming efforts in the Adams Hill neighborhood. So for any traffic calming questions or concerns, please make sure that you tune in to that community meeting on March 30th, 2023. Also open to in-person attendance and streamed live on YouTube. Now, I would like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Rostam Tavidian, Civil Engineer 1 with our department and the project manager for this project, who has a few presentation slides and details for the project and will share them with you tonight. Mr. Tavidian?
Thank you, Mr. Oganessian. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. As Mr. Oganessian mentioned, my name is Rostam Tavidian, and I'm the project manager for this project. We'll briefly cover the slides today, and the meeting agenda will briefly cover topics including project scope and location, construction phasing, major improvement details, project impacts and mitigation, public notification, construction schedule, and lastly, we will take questions and comments at the end of the presentation. The project scope of work will involve improving walking areas and street surface, removal and replacement of damaged or non-ADA infrastructure, planting of new trees, new traffic striping and pavement markers, and sewer improvements in Maintenance District 2. The project location map illustrates the areas that will receive the slurry seal treatment, which is primarily concentrated in the Adams Hill neighborhood and Windsor Road between Glendale Avenue to the easterly terminus and other various streets. In the next slides, we'll go over the phasing and details of the work, primarily starting with phase 1, which will include sewer improvements, following phase 2, concrete improvements, phase 3, asphalt pavement replacements. Phase 4 will involve slurry sealing and crack sealing. Phase 5 will be installation of traffic striping and pavement markings, and phase 6 will be street tree installations. And we'll go more in detail over these phases. Sewer improvements include replacement of 440 feet of 8-inch vitrified clay pipe throughout Maintenance District 2. Concrete improvements include repairing damaged sidewalks, driveway aprons, alley aprons, curb and gutters, and cross gutters. Asphalt pavement replacements include removal and replacement of localized sections of pavement that show sign of base failure, erosion, potholes, and uplifted pavement caused by tree roots. As part of this project and identified by the pavement management program, the contractor will first apply a crack sealing material before installing a slurry seal type 2 to improve the roadway surface. This method is approximately a one-day process and is a more cost-effective application compared to other pavement treatments. During the slurry sealing operation, irrigation should be turned off. Parking and access to your street will be restricted. However, the streets will be fully open in the evening once the slurry seal material has cured and bearing any unforeseen conditions. On this next slide, you will see the slurry seal installation on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you will see a finished surface of the slurry seal. After the slurry seal treatment is cured, the contractor will install new striping and pavement markers, as well as refurbishing or repainting red curbs, green curbs, or yellow curbs as needed. The last phase of the project includes planting of 94 new trees based on the city's arborist recommendation throughout the project location, which includes but are not limited to the following species: golden trumpet, Chinese tallow, and Cape chestnut. Some project impacts that businesses and residents may experience include resurfaced streets that may be temporarily closed during construction. However, the contractor will notify residents and businesses in advance. Street parking will be restricted in work areas. Construction may be allowed on Saturdays if necessary. And finally, construction equipment and materials may be stored on the street. As part of the project mitigation plan, roads will be open and parking will be available during non-working hours. The contractor will provide alternate traffic routes and maintain access to driveways as much as possible. Street closure will be limited to immediate work zones. Curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and driveway aprons will be constructed on one side of the street at a time. In addition, the contractor will provide flaggers for traffic control where required. The public notification will be implemented in 6 stages, with today's meeting being the first stage, followed by updating the city's project website and to advertise for bids, which will follow the director's letter 1 or 2 months before start of construction. Following that, the contractor will distribute a 2-week and 3-day door hanger for concrete and pavement improvements. Finally, the project is anticipated with a start date of July 2023 and a construction end date of November 2023, barring any unforeseen conditions. With this conclusion of this presentation, I would like to transfer it over to Mr. Sarkis Oganessian to open up for questions and comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tavidian. We'd also like to thank you, the viewers in the audience and remotely, for joining us tonight for the fiscal year 2023 Slurry Seal and Crack Seal program. As a reminder, please make sure to visit our department and project webpage at www.glendalepwprojects.com, as further details on this project will be posted there shortly. Now we would like to welcome our viewers' comments and questions regarding this project. To do so, you may raise your hand and come up to the podium to speak, or you can also call remotely at 818-937-8100. That's 818-937-8100. As a reminder, each caller will have 2 minutes to ask their questions or provide their comments. We will time the speaker or caller and inform you once your time is up. We ask that you be mindful and courteous of this time limit. With that said, would any of our audience members like to come up and ask a question or provide a comment? Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Stephen Meek. I'm president of the Adams Hill Neighborhood Association. I do have a couple of questions that you can just fill in my details here. In the seal and slurry, I've been through the neighborhood. There are certain places that have been patched a lot over the years, some of which have sunk approximately 2 inches. So the pavement goes like this and there's a 2-inch drop and people have tripped. Will that be filled in during this process?
Yes, Mr. Meeks, thank you for the question. So those were some of the asphalt removal and replacement that Mr. Tavidian talked about.
Okay.
Those would indicate a base failure, and so those base failures will be removed and mitigated before we actually apply the final slurry seal treatment. So yes, to answer your
Thank you.
question.
And the other one is some of the cracks, like you had stated it was like a 3/8 inch. Some of the cracks are a 1/2 inch or an inch deep. That'll also just be the same thing. They'll fill those in before they do the slurry and seal?
Yes, another good question. So those cracks up to 2 inches wide actually
Yeah.
can be mitigated with the crack seal material that Mr. Tavidian talked about. So that's a typical treatment before a slurry seal. Anything larger than that requires kind of essentially like a base failure or a little small grind and repave treatment, a skin patch, so to say, before we actually apply the slurry seal material.
Okay. And my final question I want to say it's right where Scenic and Corona meet, going down on Corona. I'm not sure what city did it, whether it was sewer, water, or gas, but there's a 25-foot, 30-foot long patch that does not match the pavement. Would that either be ground down or somehow mitigated before we do the slurry and seal?
Are you referring to the color of the pavement?
No. Whoever patched it, whichever department or contractor did this, you can tell it's a different color, definitely, but it doesn't match the pavement. It's some parts are higher, some parts are lower. Some of it's like this, curved. And I just said, it's just like somebody goes through and flattens it out before you fix it, that sort of thing. It's something, little things like this are all over the hill, but those are things that I'm hoping the contractor that you hire will fix prior to doing the rest of the work.
Yeah, definitely. We've done field walks of the area, and we will add this to our list if we already don't have it on our list.
Yeah.
So you
probably
said
do.
Scenic and Corona.
Yeah, it's Scenic goes like this, and then Corona goes across the top of the hill.
Okay.
It's right where they split and head down Corona.
We'll definitely take a look at it. We've made a note of it, so we'll make sure to take care of
And
it.
I wanted to also say that I greatly appreciate you guys going through and doing this for our neighborhood. We desperately need it, and it's very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. Would anybody else like to come up and speak or ask a question or provide a comment?
On behalf of our previous speaker, by the way, my name is Shirley Ann Hill. I've been a homeowner resident of Adams Hill since 1970. I love Adams Hill, right? Now, one of the things, though, that's been an issue has been the roadway. I'm a realtor, so when you sell property, the entire community goes along with the house, people look at streets and et cetera. So through the years, and a lot of this has already been stated, but through the years, a lot of patchwork's been done. We had one neighbor on Marion Drive who actually sprained her ankle by stepping into one of the cracks. And you might find that somewhere in the history, I don't think she sued or made a big deal, but they might have a record on it. So I'm just absolutely thrilled, along with many neighbors, that you're going to be fixing our streets. Now, just on an aside, when you're coming up from the Los Angeles portion of the city into the Adams Hill portion, it's like night and day. To me, LA has never superseded Glendale in anything. However, if you've looked over there, their roads are smooth, they've been redone, I'd say within the last year or two or so forth. And I'm just hoping, will ours look similar to that? I don't know what procedure they use to get those nice pavement, because I don't know a thing about slurry and pavement, or your practice, and I don't know how actually roads are redone. But what you're going to use, will it be nice and smooth and gray looking, I think is the color on the one on LA. So just wanting you to give us a good job, which I know you're going to do. And again, we thank you very, very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Hill, was that Menlin or Merlin Drive?
Marion.
Oh, Marion Drive.
M-A-R-I-O-N, Marion Drive.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for hosting this meeting. My name is Alex Fay, and I moved to the Adams Hill neighborhood about 2 years ago. And I'm very pleased that I didn't have to wait 52 years to get the streets repaved, as Shirley Ann. I'm not as patient as she is. I'll tell you that my wife and daughter and I walk these streets every day to go to John Muir Elementary School, and it makes a big difference to have a nice street to walk on, especially because there are no sidewalks in many parts of Adams Hill because of the steep terrain and narrow roads. So the streets essentially become the de facto sidewalks. So I hope that as you guys look through this, you'll consider the kind of pavement irregularities that might be tolerable in a car. You know, you really notice, and they could be a trip hazard for somebody who's walking. So potholes or that poorly filled trench that Stephen mentioned. We've actually had some stumbles and trips on those kinds of things. So just keep that in mind, that it is very much a pedestrian project where there are no sidewalks. One thing that I think Shirley was alluding to is the City of Los Angeles has done a pilot project with cool coating pavement. So it's a lighter gray colored pavement seal. I'm wondering, is that anything that Glendale has considered? Not necessarily for this project, or maybe testing it in other areas. I understand the intent is to reduce the urban heat island effect from having dark colored pavement that absorbs solar energy and radiates it out. I don't know, do you want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you for those pointers, and thanks for the question. Actually, yes, the City of Glendale Public Works Department has experimented with cool pavement. Approximately about a year and a half ago, we applied our first cool pavement in a downtown parking lot to test that manufacturer and that vendor. We are actually going to be applying another cool pavement product in South Glendale on Kenilworth Avenue, right next to Thomas Edison Elementary School. That's going to be our second product that we're going to test. So as I mentioned, we've tested it in a parking lot. We're going to be testing it in an alley. And then our next process is to test it on a actual public street. So in iteration, as we learn, and as we learn more about the products, we're going to definitely be applying them. It is a city council priority to reduce and mitigate and reduce the heat island effect. It's also our department's goal as well.
Great, so it sounds like won't be ready for this particular project, but maybe in future cycles, that's something that we could see as part of the application?
Correct. But that is definitely something that the communities will most likely be seeing as we move forward and test out these products and find a product that truly does work for our neighborhoods and our streets. But unfortunately not for this neighborhood and not as part of this project, but hopefully soon.
Okay. And then I'd like to make one specific request or point a particular part of the street you're paving out for your attention. So at the very end of Scenic Drive, when it terminates at the top of the hill, there is kind of a cul-de-sac, triangular shaped paved area that is used for street sweepers and garbage trucks and other vehicles to do their turnaround so they can go back down the hill. Also, that is the access road for Glendale Water and Power and Los Angeles Department of Water and Power to service the water tanks that are on the top of Adams Hill. And so there's a fair amount of traffic that extends actually beyond Scenic Drive. Some of it is legally an easement through private property, but it is all accessed by public service vehicles on a daily basis. And I hope that that gets factored into the pavement. You know, when you have the crew out there, if you can do the slurry seal on that whole section of asphalt, and not just have kind of a narrowly defined, well, this is the public right of way, so we're going to end with a line here. I think it's important that the whole area gets maintained. Otherwise, the cracks, you know, I think as you guys know, pavement cracks can be somewhat contagious, right? If you don't maintain the whole area. So I don't know if that's part of the plan. It didn't show on the map, but the map was not very precise. So if you guys can look at that, I'd appreciate it. Ideally, it would go all the way to the gate, the access gate to the water tanks. I think that's historically been something the city has taken care of, despite it being an easement on private property. But at the very least, that triangular shaped cul-de-sac, I think is important to maintain.
Definitely. We will take a look at it and include it as part of this project if we're able to and if it falls under our jurisdiction.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, your questions. Ms. Arkelian, we're ready to take our first caller if we have any callers on the lines.
Patty Silvershare, you're on the air. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just want to say I can't believe how thrilled I am that the city is finally coming to address the street problem in Adams Hill. I've lived here since 1985, and believe me, I have walked mayors and city council people through our streets to show them the potholes that we have and how dangerous these streets are, from myself falling to other people falling, and now knowing that our crack and the pavement is going to be solidified is a huge, huge, just wonderful. Oh, gosh, I just can't tell you. We've needed this. We've worked on this for so long. And I'm the charge of block captains for all of Adams Hill, and we've all written in, and I'm looking at the audience right now. Thank you all for showing up. I know it's a really rainy night. I was unable to attend in person. I just want to tell you how important this is and how much we appreciate that you are addressing this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Silvershare. Ms. Arkelian, do we have any more callers?
Yes, we have one more caller. Victoria Valentine, you're on the air. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
And I can see Engineer Daviti, and thank God I didn't see him for a while. I thought I was on the wrong screen. I want to tell you about the slurry that was put here by Mr. Steve Zern. Rest in peace, unfortunately. He put the slurry, and I hated it. I thought it was ugly black. Now I love it. He did a good job. This is what you need to do. He saved a lot of money for Glendale Water and Power. Why resurface when you allow 16-wheelers bang this Chevy Chase drive? I know I'm not next to Adams, but Chevy Chase received the slurry from Mr. Zern, and it's still intact. Don't skip on glue. Don't skip on the use whatever method he used. It works. It's wonderful. I love it. Even if it's a wiggly-diggly, it slows down the speedsters, I think. Okay, thank you. Don't spend too much money, but do a good job. Don't skip on the materials. Don't change them. Look up Mr. Zern's job. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine. And we'll make sure that our specifications are buttoned up so the contractor does not skip out on any of the glue or the sand that makes up a slurry product. Ms. Arkelian, do we have any more callers?
There are no callers at this time.
Okay, we'll give it a few
We
more.
have one coming in right now.
Sure, let's take it.
Joanne Graves, you're on the air. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Ms. Arkelian, do we have any more callers?
May I speak?
Yes, we can hear you, Ms. Graves. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I understand that you will be planting new trees. I'm a relatively new resident, and I noticed beautiful trees in the neighborhood, which probably took many years to grow. But I am a little concerned about how you're going to be determining where the trees will be planted, as well as what type of trees they will be, because deciduous trees do lose their leaves, and then it falls on the resident closest to the tree to maintain the tree and the leaves. And the condition of the sidewalk. So I'd like to ask more about that.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Graves. So the trees that were selected for this project, the species, the count, it actually was in conjunction with our maintenance services division and our professional urban forester, who advises us on all of our capital projects. The urban forester typically walks the area, and based on the street, based on the right-of-way, based on the width, determines which species of trees will grow and do well in that area. So if you would like, you can contact Mr. Tavidian after this community meeting, and he'd be more than happy to share with you and walk you through the process of how our urban forester selected the trees and which trees will go where.
Okay. I'd also like to ask, does the residents have any say on where the trees are placed, especially if it's placed right in front of the property?
So usually the private property has a sewer lateral or a water lateral that services the property. The trees are planted away from those laterals so they don't do any damage in the future to those laterals. Given that the right-of-way is limited and the width of properties are also limited, there isn't much room for the tree moving based on the urban forester's recommendation, but that can also be discussed during construction with the contractor during the tree planting portion. But all those items have to be we have to be mindful of them when selecting the location of that tree in front of a property.
So a resident can also be part of the discussion. Is that what you're implying?
During the construction process, when we are at the tree, which Mr. Tavidian, I believe, mentioned is approximately the last phase of the project, if you would like to reach out to us, or if any resident would like to reach out to us and find out if they have a tree coming in front of their property, we'd be more than happy to share that information.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Arkellen, any more callers?
Yes, we have one more caller. Sky Kogachi, you're on the air. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you. So I live on Vista Superbo, which is the top street on Adams Hill, and half of that street is LA. So I was calling to find out, I'm assuming the slurry and seal will be done on the entire street and not just on the Glendale side, but will the curbs and gutter that have been disrupted by trees be repaired on the LA side as well as the Glendale side?
Mr. Kogachi, that's a good question, and thank you for that question. So unfortunately, whatever is in the City of LA jurisdiction is the City of LA's responsibility. We are not allowed to mobilize and do any work in their right-of-way. However, if you do want to contact Mr. Tavidian to discuss your particular address, again, we'd be happy to look into it and share the extent of any curb and gutter repair that is in the Glendale right-of-way with you.
So are you also saying that the slurry and seal will only be done on half of the street?
So the slurry is typically going to be done from curb to curb or gutter edge to gutter edge. But again, based on where your residence is and the street that you are discussing, we'd have to look into it and get back to you on that.
Okay, great. I will contact him and find out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Arkellen, any more questions?
There are no callers at this time.
Anybody in the audience, if you have anything further, you're more than welcome to speak again.
Hi, this is Stephen Meek again. I just wanted to comment on the Vista Superba. That is an unusual street because it is both LA on the east side and Glendale on the west side. So I would be fairly certain that the slurry and seal would cover the entire street. But that's something that Public Works should be talking to LA, since they've been doing so much work on their side of the hill anyway, that they could come and cooperate with the Glendale side.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Meeks, for clarifying that as well. We will definitely have a discussion with our counterparts in the city of LA, and if we can do it at the same time, or if we can enter into a memorandum of understanding with each other, then we definitely take care of it as part of this project.
Thank you.
Of course. Yes. Go on up, Ms. Hill.
Next to my house, on the street, is a terribly broken concrete, where the walkway is, you know, not the pavement, you know, the sidewalk area. This may have been caused by the phone companies. I can't remember. It was several years ago. And they come out and they work on the wires and put their ladders up, et cetera, et cetera. And sometime after that, I noticed how all the broken areas. So I had been thinking about it and thinking of calling the city to discuss it. However, it seems like that is already in the plan to take care of any part of the sidewalk that is in front of a resident. If it's cracked, broken, or whatever, that will be taken care of. Is that correct?
Thank you, Ms. Hill, for the question. So, yes, if the sidewalk or the concrete in front of a address is in the walking path or in the carriage walk, or which is what I believe you're referring to from the street to the sidewalk area, that will be has already either been looked at and inventoried for repair. It also has to classify for a complete removal and replacement. It has to have a certain trip hazard. Just because it might have an aesthetic crack to it, that is not a tripping hazard or a safety concern. It may or may not be addressed, but if it definitely does pose a safety concern, if it is uplifted, it will definitely be repaired as part of this project.
Definitely uplifted, broken, kind of just not good at all. So I think it might fall in.
Yes, correct. And I would highly advise you to share your information with Mr. Tavidian after this meeting, so we can also confirm that it's part of our list.
Okay. Thank you so much for this meeting. Thank you.
Of course.
If I might add
Mr.
one
Fay, go
more
ahead.
thing to confirm that the survey caught, in front of the address is 1200 Scenic. There is what appears to be the rotted out base of a utility pole that hasn't been there for many decades, but there is essentially a utility pole shaped hole in the concrete. So it sounds like what you were talking about, that's the kind of thing that could get repaired as part of this process. It's definitely a trip hazard. The sidewalk there is only about 1.5 feet wide, so it's not really a normal walking path, but it definitely looks like the kind of thing that would be a problem. So 1200 Scenic, if you can make sure that's on your list or someone checks it out, I'd appreciate it.
We will add that to the list.
Thank you.
Ms. Arkelian, any more callers?
There are no callers at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you to all our speakers, both in our audience and as well as the callers at home. To provide any more feedback on the project, please make sure you reach out to the project manager, Mr. Rostam Tavidian. His information is provided on the screen, or you can also call us at 818-548-3945. That's 818-548-3945, and we'd be happy to refer you to Mr. Tavidian or the proper contact. You may also find a copy of today's presentation with all the contact information on our project webpage located at GlendalePWProjects.com. After the conclusion of this community meeting, and by tomorrow morning, the presentation will be uploaded to the website for everybody to view and refer to in the future. Again, thank you for joining us, and this concludes the community meeting for the fiscal year 2023 Slurry Seal and Crack Seal program. The time is now 6:44 p.m. Thanks for coming out. and stay safe and stay dry.